There are a lot of people who are excited about the change in Wisconsin. Some of those people are actually Republicans because they think that you're beatable, so much so that they spent around $3 million to boost your candidacy in this Democratic primary race. How will you convince swing voters who think you're too far to the left to support you?
They also know that their candidate is one of the weakest candidates that they could put forth. Tom Tiffany is an election denier and traitor, and he supports a national abortion ban as well as losing health care and supports Americans losing health care, millions of folks across the state. I think with more moderate voters that we recognize that this moment is not just a movement moment, but our coalition continues to grow, and our coalition is bipartisan. Republicans with Hong signs in their yard, that our folks are in rural, urban, and suburban communities. It is incredibly exciting that an Organizing First campaign continues to help communities grow their organizing skills as well and come to support our campaign.
You have been distancing yourself from the National Democratic Socialist Platform. I heard you in an interview this morning doing that most recently. In that interview on Fox, you said you don't support, for example, abolishing the Senate, abolishing the Defense Department, abolishing the Supreme Court, which are all part of the platform. But there are some bread and butter issues that I want to ask you about that are also in the DSA platform. And it's under a headline, "A Day Without Capitalism." And I'm going to read it. Speaking of bills, you don't really have them anymore. You have no debt. You don't have health insurance. You don't pay a mortgage or have a landlord. Food, education, energy, medicine, and transportation aren't for-profit businesses. They are common goods and utilities. Would these be your goals if you were governor of Wisconsin?
I was a small business owner for over 7 years, and I believe in organizing worker power and unions as well. And I think it's important to recognize the practical and sensible solutions that we need right now, and that's permanent affordability. That's ensuring that we've got healthy school meals in our school, that we're raising the minimum wage, that we ensure paid leave, and that everyone has access to fair, cheaper healthcare across our state. And we're building affordable housing. Folks are excited when I talk about a public bank that allows people to actually build more affordable housing, create good union construction jobs, and make sure that our small businesses can thrive.
Yeah, and I that makes perfect sense. But you said this morning that you pay dues to the Democratic Socialist Party, and what they are talking about, at least in part of their platform, is, I mean, it sounds a little bit utopian. I don't know. It depends where your point of view is, that food, education, energy, medicine, transportation would be common goods and utilities. Is that your ultimate goal? I understand the political realities of being in a purple state, but if you could, would those be the kinds of policies you would be able to implement?
My home chapter, DSA Madison, we have focused so much on making sure that we're helping to meet community needs. And we didn't actually pursue the national DSA endorsement. And as I've mentioned, there aren't things that I completely agree with right now. And I want to focus on building permanent affordability for all Wisconsinites, where people feel like this is a state they belong to. And, you know, being born and raised in my home state and recognizing that this is a place where I can open a business, where I can be a single mom and still feel very cared for in the community. But this isn't the reality for too many people across Wisconsin. And so I think that for us, making sure that we're putting working class people first is the type of government we want to build, a government that is a force of good.
You posted a lot about the police back in 2020 and 2021. You wrote, "I support defunding the police as a first step towards abolishing the police, and that reform can't be an option." I know you say that a governor cannot defund the police and that you do not want to, quote, govern by slogan. I just want to be clear. Does this mean that you no longer believe in the goal of defunding and ultimately abolishing the police that you posted about 5 years ago?
I believe that safety is a human right, that I'm going to be a governor that is more serious about public safety than any other governor. And I'm willing to work with community organizers, faith leaders, local governments where many of our public safety systems are funded. And if anyone believes in defunding the police, it's been Robin Vos and the Republicans in the state legislature who have ruled the legislature for over 16 years and have no qualms around defunding our local governments, where these are folks who provide some of the most essential services in preventing violence and making sure that we're getting guns off of our street. And so to be serious about public safety, I'm most interested in making sure that we are being tough on the causes if we're going to be tough on crime, and make sure that we build community safety all across the state.
Did your opinion change then on defunding the police?
That I think that people can evolve, that I am going to be a sensible and practical government and governor that is going to make sure that public safety is a priority and
so
actually
you evolved
get
on that.
Serious safety. I think that what my values are where some of my beliefs are as well, but where my values are is in making sure that public safety is for everyone, that everyone has access to it. And I think that what I've believed in the past, like that can evolve, but I still know that I cannot defund police as governor. And what I want to do is making sure that we're fully funding and investing in the community programs that we know actually work, that data shows builds community safety. And again, the belief that I have, the values that I hold, is that everyone has a right to feel safe and be safe.
I just want to sort of put a fine point on it. You said your views can evolve. Have your views actually evolved on defunding the police?
We had a police shooting in my hometown of Madison, Wisconsin. It's actually the third one to happen on Willie Street, which is in my district. And it's difficult for me to think about what I would say to a mother who has lost their children to police violence. But I know that we can change these systems that must be changed. There are folks who work in prisons. They have some of the highest suicide rates for any employment, that we need to make sure that every incarcerated person can live a life of dignity, that 99% of incarcerated folks in our state will be going into community. And we have to lower those recidivism rates, make sure to invest in mental health resources, in tackling the opioid epidemic.
Yeah.
And I think that when we have a governor that believes in those things, we can achieve public safety.
Okay. I didn't hear a yes or a no there, but let's move on. A reporter asked your likely Republican opponent, Tom Tiffany, yesterday about what he would say to a voter undecided between you and him. Listen to what he said.
Tom Tiffany, he is one of us. I grew up in this state. I raised my family in this state. Me and my wife had a small business in this state. I love this state.
As you mentioned in this interview, you were born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin. You're raising your son there. You started a business there. What do you think he meant?
I hope this is a voter that I can meet, that they understand that not only am I somebody who's relatable and has a lived experience to fight for making sure that all of these things are available to everyone across the state, but I believe that, the support from Republicans, independents, folks who want to challenge the status quo and know that this economy is rigged against working class people. I'm not sure why he may have said that, but I certainly want to meet him and make sure that we have a conversation and that he knows who Tom Tiffany is. Tom Tiffany is a pedophile protector. He wants to rip food away from our children, and he will be a puppet for the Trump regime, and he won't put Wisconsinites first. He'll put that interest of special interest corporation, and they call him Mr. Mining because he has no concern around the environmental impact of mining or in making sure that we're not selling out our natural resources to billionaires and tech corporations. And I will say, too, that he does not support a moratorium on the construction of AI data centers. And that is not only legislation that I've introduced, but it is a deeply bipartisan issue where folks know that they don't want these in their communities. And I don't think that Tom Tiffany would be a candidate who cares about that at all.
assuming that you do, in fact, win your primary on August 11th, this is going to be a very interesting race. Thank you for being on. I appreciate it. I'm glad it all worked out today, and I hope you come back.
Dana, I will absolutely be back.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me.